there. How are you?
Hey Ken, how you doing?
Good, good.
Before you ask me what I make of it, I'm not sure what to make of it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, pretty bizarre. The only thing I could think of is, this is a massive publicity stunt to raise his profile after he was yanked off his radio show, and
yeah.
he's not in good graces anymore. I mean, when you think about analyze it, who's going to vote for him? The liberals, the Democrats, the progressives, all the special interest groups, the identity political groups, the minorities, they're not going to vote for him. And Trump's base isn't going to vote for him because, he's gone over to the other side. So who's his constituency? I think he's going for some kind of a high profile now. He could become maybe a spokesperson for certain political groups, become the poster boy of some religious group that presents reformed sinners, those souls that have been saved. He could become a consultant now for MSNBC, CNN, because now
Right.
he's a reformed, crazed Republican who's now seen the light. So I think that's what he's going for. I mean,
Well,
who would vote for him?
well, how popular was his show? I mean, was it? I don't.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I never listened to it.
Neither
I
did I.
guess it had some traction there, and the more provocative he was, the more hits he would
Yeah.
get.
Right. Right.
But then again, he got too provocative in today's political climate, so they stopped it. So I mean, who's going to believe now that, oh, I just said that'd be provocative. I didn't really think so, and because I was being provocative, I should be forgiven for that. I mean, let's forget about all that. I'm a new guy. I mean, it doesn't wash. It's not credible.
But what about his point that he's probably sort of softening things up for someone else to come forward and, you know, save the Republican Party? I think that's a fair point.
A stalking horse for somebody else, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, but then again, who wants to associate themselves with him? Although I suppose, stalking horse theory would be that once a Republican starts being critical of Trump, then others are going to jump on board. Perhaps,
Right.
perhaps. I mean, I don't really see that as a effective,
Well,
workable
well,
plan.
I mean, I heard this guy Cenk Uygur, who's from the Young Turks, made a prediction, which I think he made it a few days ago. He said his feeling is that at some point Trump is going to realize statistically that he could lose 40 states. You know,
Right.
once, and at that point he's probably going to resign.
And
Or
therefore, that makes way for somebody like
exactly.
Walsh.
Well, some not maybe not so much Waltz, but some other Republican. Some of the
Yeah.
more mainstream guys that.
Yeah, that's interesting too, whether Trump being the egotist that he is,
Yeah,
and
that's what he's
always,
saying. That's what
winning,
Cenk is
winning,
saying.
winning is primary.
Right.
Will he tough it out due to his pride, or will his self-inflated image of himself do damage control and jump out before he actually is defeated? Then he could always make some excuse of why he didn't run, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think he'll
Maybe.
dump out and probably set up his own television network. I mean, Fox is no longer with us. It's
And
going to go.
Fox was part of me losing, so
Right.
therefore we're
Exactly.
going to go to a
Exactly.
real alternative news
Right.
network. That could be the plan too.
Right. Right.
I mean, this whole political process has become constantly so bizarre, so unpredictable, so many wild cards being thrown in.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, you've got to admit, for people like us in the media, Trump has certainly made it a colorful 3 years so far. I mean, every day there's a story to go after.
Yeah.
Under
That's
a
true.
more sedate president, I mean, half the time you don't even, the news will be dominated by some, celebrity news. But
Yeah.
Trump has dominated the news, and I think we're going to miss him in terms of being media guys
Yeah.
because he is great copy every
Yeah.
day. You got to
Yeah.
admit that.
I agree. I agree. Let me ask you a last question. What do you think about the latest mass shooting? I mean, you think anything will happen, or is this here we go again?
You know, Again, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but so it seems like there's a pattern afoot here now. I think a lot of them are random, but another element that nobody explores, and that's because of the power of the pharmaceutical industry with
Hmm.
advertisements in media, TV, and
Hmm.
radio cover. Nobody talks much about a lot of these shooters are on these drugs that make them suicidal, make them aggressive. The antidepressant drugs do just the opposite in many cases. And if you examine the backgrounds of these guys, a lot of them are on that. You know, they're little nuts to begin with, so they're on these drugs, which makes them even crazier. But the media will not dwell on that story if they report it at all because they're not going to offend their pharmaceutical industry sponsors.
But I mean, these are
You
legal
don't
drugs
get
you're
the full
talking
story.
about? Legal drugs or illegal? What kind of
Legal
drugs? Like,
drugs, legal prescription drugs,
uh,
antidepressants, all kinds of things to calm a person down who may be a
right,
little off to begin with. And it will,
right.
in many cases, I mean, this is documented, it has the opposite effect. And you hear very little coverage of that element in these
Right.
shootings. How come? Because of the power of the dollar that the pharmaceutical industry yields for TV commercials and radio commercials.
Yeah. So funny. Everything gets back down to get the money out of politics. I mean, when you,
Yeah, again, you know, as we discussed before, until they ban legalized bribery, which is under the euphemism of campaign
right,
contributions, nothing will change
right,
because, you know,
right.
even a well-meaning politician to stay in office, not only does he have to go along with the program to get
Yeah,
support from political backers, but
yeah,
he's constantly in need of raising funds. Somebody did a study one time where congressmen and senators are constantly
yeah.
fundraising
Right.
because campaigns are so expensive now. So in a way, they can't escape that. You know, they're
Yeah,
dependent on those political donations, which influences their decisions, no matter what they say about that, how they rationalize it. And you know, there's been talk over the years of public funding with a limit on it, and that's
right,
all you get. And you know, none of these outside contributions. Of
right.
course, the Supreme Court, you know, the conservative Supreme Court, which is growing more conservative, ruled that you know that you'd be interfering with free
Free
speech.
speech.
That,
Right,
you know, the campaign contributions are
right.
are a form of free speech. So,
Yeah,
you know, you'd have to have a constitutional amendment to change that because the Supreme Court's already ruled on
yeah.
that.
It's
So, you know,
true.
it's a very big political process to get that changed.
All right, sir.
All
Nice talking to you. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a good
right.
rest of your Labor Day.
Yes. All right.
Okay. Be
Bye.
good. Bye bye.